I'm Virginia Alley, and I'm the owner here at Ben's Chili Bowl. Been here since August 22nd, 1958. When we opened, we knew we wanted to be a community-based place, and we knew we wanted to get to know the community, and our goal was to help those that needed help when we could, and we did that. Wow, when the pandemic hit, and when we realized that it makes people sick, it not only makes people sick, it takes their lives. It was a frightening time for us.
This pandemic really shook us to our core as an industry. We are 90+% independently owned and operated in this market of the Metropolitan Washington, D.C. area, different than anywhere else in the country, which makes us incredibly unique, but it made us incredibly vulnerable in terms of how operators were dealing with this pandemic. Probably the most devastating part of the initial weeks of the pandemic were the conversations of 90+% of their workforce who had to be furloughed or notified that they were no longer in a position to employ them.
Filing for unemployment is not something you typically have to do in the bar and restaurant industry. If you lose your job for whatever reasons, typically you can just walk down the street and get a new job. It's very simple. That wasn't the case here. There wasn't anywhere you could walk to. There wasn't anywhere that was open. And that initial closure really sent a shockwave through a lot of people's systems. There were people that didn't know where their rent was going to come from, and I was myself in a position that I didn't really understand where I was going to be able to find a way out.
We had to improvise and find ways to help us to stay here. We worked harder than ever. One of the reporters said in his article that we were on the brink of closing, and I began to get letters from across the country, but mostly from our community, saying, "We love Ben's, we don't want anything to happen to Ben's. Please accept my $25 money order, or my $50 check, or my $100 check, or $500, or even $1,000. We were able to take those funds and prepare box lunches for the hospital center, for the police department, the fire department. All of these things we did and were able to keep us afloat.
Things were changing hour to hour, particularly that first month or two during the pandemic. What we saw was, one, resiliency. It was incredible in terms of sticking with it, wanting to commit to their communities, turning their restaurants into markets, bodegas, turning their restaurants into, when we got to the time, testing sites. So testing was a critical key in a very, very complex recipe. It has allowed a tool for our operators to have some level of stability within their establishments at a time when there were, and there continue to be, so many unknowns.
Fortunately, in the district, we had a lot of access to testing. Where we ended up was in a place where anybody could get a test at any time, and being in a position as we were reopening slowly, testing really was able to offer a lot of peace of mind to people and some semblance of safety in a time where there just was a lot of uncertainty and people weren't really sure what was going on.
Well, it's incredibly important to be able to know as a small business owner, particularly in the food service space, to know that you have the ability to count on free testing that is easy and easy to access for all.
I don't want to see a decrease in testing. I want to see an increase in testing. I want to make sure it becomes more accessible. I want people to be able to get it every day of the week, no matter where they live, where they are, who they are. I hope that testing remains a key part of the toolkit with vaccines and mask wearing and social distancing and hand washing. All the things we've been doing are all culminating with the safety and hopefully a recovery from this pandemic.
Here at Ben's Chili Bowl, we're encouraging everybody to please get tested. It's not that hard to do.